Science and technology war between the United States and China. China will surpass the United States in the core technology of the 21st century in the next decade. China, which has displaced the United States as the world's top high-tech manufacturer, is predicted to gain on, if it has not already overtaken, the world's largest economy within the next decade in the foundational technologies of the 21st century, including artificial intelligence, quantum information science, semiconductors, biotechnology, and green energy. That sweeping forecast was made in a new report, The Great Rivalry, China versus the U.S. in the 21st Century, published on Tuesday by the Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs at the Harvard Kennedy School, the public policy institution of Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Today, China's rapid rise to challenge U.S. dominance of technology's commanding heights has captured America's attention, said the report, which documents the competition between the two countries in the past 20 years. In some races, has already become number one. In others, on current trajectories, it will overtake the U.S. within the next decade, the report said. Its lead author is Graham Allison, founding dean of the Harvard Kennedy School, author of the international bestseller Destined for War, Can America and China Escape Thucydides' Trap, and a former U.S. Assistant Defense Secretary. The report adds a fresh voice to a growing chorus in the U.S., warning the country is now at risk of being replaced by China as the world's top economic and technological power. This generation's Sputnik moment. In 1957, the U.S. was caught unprepared and the Soviet Union launched the world's first Earth-orbiting satellite called Sputnik 1. The event galvanized the U.S. into action, igniting a space race that eventually led to the country's successful landing of the first human on the moon in 1969. China has already supplanted the U.S. as the world's top high-tech manufacturer, producing 250 million computers, 25 million cars, and 1.5 billion smartphones in 2020. According to the Harvard report. In October, U.S. intelligence officials warned American technology firms against working with China in the fields of AI, quantum computing, bioscience, semiconductors, and autonomous systems. U.S. targets Chinese high-tech and defense sectors in deepening crackdown. In AI, China is already a full-spectrum peer competitor of the U.S., according to the Harvard report, citing a quote from former Google chief executive Eric Schmidt. It indicated that China is laying the intellectual groundwork for a generational advantage in AI. The report indicated that in deep learning, AI's hottest subfield, China has 6 times more patent publications than the U.S. It cited an assessment of the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, which forecast the U.S. to fall to second place in the top 1% of most cited AI papers by 2025. In 5G, nearly all key indicators support projections that China will dominate this field. According to the report, by the end of 2020, China had 150 million users to America's 6,700,000 base stations to America's 50,000, 460 MHz of licensed mid-band spectrum to America's 70 MHz, and 300 megabits per second average speeds to America's 60 megabits per second. Despite China's edge in those numbers, the U.S. maintains a competitive edge in 5G research and development, standards, and applications, according to the report. In quantum computing, quantum communication, and quantum sensing, 3 subfields within QIS traditionally led by U.S. researchers, China is catching up and, in some cases, has already overtaken America, the report said. Unlike prior technological revolutions that took place and China was still a poor country, China's meteoric rise has provided it with the funds and manpower to potentially lead this field, it said. Chinese physicists have recently claimed breakthroughs in quantum computing. In November, a team of 14 Chinese scientists, behind the new generation Sunway exascale supercomputer, won this year's annual Gordon Bell Prize for a breakthrough that closes the gap in so-called quantum supremacy. China's state media accuses U.S. of plot to derail nation's chip ambition. In semiconductors, the report predicted China to become the world's largest semiconductor producer in mature technology node, with a 3-fold increase in its share of global chip consumption, from less than 20% in 2000 to 60% in 2019. China's growing domestic demand has provided both market and national security incentives to expand its push into the semiconductor industry, according to the report. The undeniable reality is that China's potential to become a semiconductor leader can no longer be discounted, the report said. On the current trajectory, it is more likely than not that President Xi will accomplish his goal of China becoming a top-tier player in the semiconductor industry by 2030. The U.S., however, retains control of key supply chain choke points through firms like Applied Materials and Lam Research, which hold 55% market share of chip manufacturing equipment, versus 2% for China, and 85% of electronic design automation software, according to the report. In the areas of biotechnology and green energy, the report indicated that China has become a potent competitor to the U.S., aided by increased efforts in research and development, its manufacturing prowess and government-backed initiative. While China is the world's #1 producer of greenhouse gases, it is also a leader in renewable energy development. Both Don Rosenberg, a former general counsel at Qualcomm and Apple, and Google's Schmidt have endorsed the Harvard report. Lead author Allison and Schmidt said in a joint commentary piece published in Wall Street Journal on Wednesday that the report isn't alarmist, but nonetheless concludes that China has made such extraordinary leaps